Welcome to our weekly soundtrack review. We each listen to an entire soundtrack, one film, one TV show, and one video game. And we're going to give our thoughts on each of those, as well as our top 3 tracks. Stay tuned.
Weekly review for John Wick, Chapter 4. I listened to it before I saw the movie. Really good soundtrack. It's solid. It's pretty synth heavy, but still manages to sound orchestral. Right? There's soundtracks that are far more synthy. Composers Tyler Bates and Joel J. Richard return for this one. They've done all 4 John Wick movies, so they've got a good sense of the characters in the world, and it really shows here in John Wick Chapter 4. Definitely got me excited to see the movie this past weekend, which I did, so it was cool to have listened to the music and then watch the movie. There are lots of punny track titles in Michael Giacchino style on the soundtrack itself, things like Big Wick Energy and Of Mincing in Men, and plenty of others. But it's cool to see those things come together in the film. You definitely get a variety of styles, which was interesting. The track Stairs Arrival has a sort of Western strummed guitar sound, which it was absolutely noticeable in the movie. If you've seen it, you know that moment. Really dope moment. But the rest of the track does tend to blend together, in very high octane action style. It fits right in with like the Bourne soundtracks, maybe a little bit less of John Powell's calmer character moments. I'd say the calmest moments in John Wick come at the end, especially the track Helen a Handbasket. Helen a Handbasket, because puns. My top 3 tracks were actually, number 1 was I Would Die For You by the band In This Moment. I've listened to it kind of on repeat since first hearing it. It's hard to describe what I love so much about it, but it's a great song. It's the second credit roll song. Number 2 is Helen a Handbasket. And number 3 is Pistol Procession, which also comes at the end of the movie, towards the end, and at that point things are really ramping up emotionally and you're getting more layers, I think, and different styles of music. The music's mood would be kind of action, high-tech, maybe solemn even at the end. Give it a good listen if you need to stay awake on a Friday afternoon, or maybe when you're working out or going for a run.
For our TV soundtrack this week, I reviewed Shadow and Bone Season 2. I was a big fan of the Season 1 soundtrack, so I had decently high expectations going into this one. Overall, it is a decent follow-up to Season 1. The score had a lot of dark and kind of tragic undertones to the sound, and like the first one, it does feature a lot of orchestra, strings, and it has some good tender tracks that had some emotional moments like I Can't Lose You and The Night We Met. I was a big fan of the Crows theme from the Season 1 soundtrack, and it is featured in this one, but not as much as I would have liked. Now, I have not seen Season 2 of Shadow and Bone yet, so I don't know how prominently the Crows are featured this season, but I would have loved to hear their theme used a little bit more. The score did introduce some intriguing new themes, like in the track Shu Han, and it seems clear to me from the soundtrack alone at least, that they're really expanding the world of Shadow and Bone. Overall, I did appreciate the new themes in this soundtrack, but I think I like the Season 1 soundtrack just a little bit more. Time for my top tracks. My top 3 are, number 1, Violin. 2, How Will You Have Me? And 3, The Night We Met. Give this a listen if you like fantasy soundtracks, especially if you like Shadow and Bone Season 1 or just Shadow and Bone the show in general.
So Runner 3, wow, caught me off guard because here I loved the soundtrack for Runner 2. It's really chill and vibey, and then lo and behold, Runner 3 brings that same charm, but yet brings something new to the table and still feels fresh. And it's got like electronic and synth sounds and even distorted vocals providing sonic elements to the score. It's whimsical, peppy, and chill. And it starts out with a whistled version of the main theme, which I love, which is the same main theme of Runner 2. From there, the whimsy does not stop through the rest of the album. At times, it feels bigger in scale sonically than Runner 2, but not in a way that feels like it loses the purity of where it came from. It still has that same simple charm to it. My favorite tracks are A Gentle Welcoming, Automation Song, and Globe Trotsky. Overall, I highly recommend. It's got a really chill vibe for easy listening, and I will be returning to this soundtrack quite often.